All right, third time's a charm. Sorry about the technical issues, but some reason whenever I turn on a live, my default microphone is not the right one. So I got to fix that. So, anyway, Happy New Year. It is New Year's Eve. Going to discuss a little bit about what today actually is. Is there any significance to it? Is it just another day? For most people, yeah, it's just another day. But you could use it for your advantage, especially if you started off by thinking, all right, 2019, how did that go for me? How did I do? What did I do well? What do I need to work on? What are my weaknesses? What are my strengths? And you need to spend some time seriously, honestly considering what those weaknesses are because it matters. It matters to how you are going to progress because we are now going into a new year, a new decade, a new day. You define it however you want to on the timeline, but any day is a good day to assess your weaknesses and to assess your strengths and try to maintain your strengths, but also work on your weaknesses. What do I mean by that? That can be anything. I typically talk about fitness, obviously. So there are many weaknesses in the fitness world. There are strength and power, speed and agility, flexibility, mobility, injury prone, grip, cardiovascular endurance, and muscle stamina. You name it. There's just so many different elements of fitness that you could focus on. That could also be, actually sports specific skills, even that you may need to get better at doing and practice some of those in your programming of training. But I am taking questions today, and if you have questions, go ahead and start sending them, and we will kind of move on from this, but try to keep it as a focus of what you want to do as this year um, progresses. It's never a bad idea to set some goals. These goals may be sub goals. And what exactly is a sub goal? I would say this: if you're trying to move from one stage in your life to another, let's say you're graduating high school, going into college, or you are post high school thinking about joining the military. Those are stages that typically involve some form of specific training for you to take it to that next level. So let's consider the PST, for instance. So we'll say the minimum standards on a PST, which should never be someone's goal, but it's not a bad idea to start your journey with those sub goals of having, um, being able to reach the minimum standards. You got to start somewhere, right? Every special operator, every professional athlete was one day a beginner, and you got to start somewhere. So, yes, though I mess around with people and say, hey, minimum standards, I don't know them. I would have to go reference them. And they should never be someone's ultimate goal or capstone to their training before they go into these programs. The last thing you want to do is be flirting with minimum standards in anything. Um, so, yes, keep pushing yourself well above the minimum standards as a minimum, and get into well above the optimal standards. There's nothing impossible about being able to do a 8-minute swim, 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 20 pull-ups, and a 9-minute run. I mean, I would call those scores good scores. Now, they may be very far in your future before you can get there, but that doesn't matter. Just take the time, be patient, and enjoy the journey of getting there. You may have some sub goals along the way that might be half of that. That's okay. Keep practicing, keep moving towards that goal. That's the way you do it. One day at a time, get a little better, have some patience, and get on a program, get on a system that specifically addresses your weaknesses and helps you maintain your strengths. That's the key. So if I don't have any questions, I am going to cut this short and just say Happy New Year. And we have some questions, so that's good. I don't have to cut it that short. As a 16-year-old, would you suggest Thorne creatine as something mandatory or something that helps? I don't recommend it at all. I mean, I think Thorne is a great company. And if you're going to get any supplement, get it from Thorne because they are legit. Do you need creatine at 16 years old? I don't think you do. Tell me why you do. Right? Can't use it if you're going to be a power athlete, that works pretty well. But I think sometimes people will overuse creatine and not hydrate enough, become dehydrated, blow their hamstrings out, from double bilateral muscle cramps. You got to stay really hydrated with that. And if you're doing anything that's get you sweating profusely, it could be an issue. I've seen a lot of people's spec ops dreams go up in smoke because they were using creatine during selection type programs and just cramped up. They couldn't keep up. Now they were great athletes on the field. They're football players, lacrosse players. I've seen some bad experiences with it. Have we gotten smarter with using it since the 90s? Yes, 100%. But it can be misused. And at 16, I personally don't think you might have enough experience or to actually use it properly. You need to have some seriously smart training guidance at your age if you're considering creatine. There is a place for it in athletics. I just don't think there's much of a place for it in spec ops prep, and that's where I focus on. So I heard that the Army PFT was changing drastically. Yes, not just the sit-ups. Sit-ups will be gone. They're going to do hanging knee-ups instead, where you got to bring your elbows to your knees like that. Is very hard. You need to do a Google search on the Army CFT. It's not the Army PST. It's the Army Combat Fitness Test. Written a couple articles on it. I've updated an ebook. That's the Army PFT workout that also has the CFT in it. It's not fake news. It's going to happen this year. It's already happening. It's going to be deadlifts. It's going to be medicine ball throws. It's still going to have a 2-mile run in it. If you go to Google, put in Army CFT Stu Smith. I've written probably 4 or 5 articles about it and have written programs around it. So it is happening. Good question, though. I gave up supplements, wasted money. Yeah, it could be. 53-year-old adapting yearly periodization. I think you will really love it, David. I'm doing 13-week heavy cycle. I'm not recovering unless I drop the workouts to 5 to 7 a week. Is this a good strategy? Yes. You know what I would do at your age and my age is take one of those harder days and just wipe it clean from your schedule. Because if you're using any of my programs, I usually go 5-6 days a week take one of those like midweek, Wednesday or Thursday, and just turn it into a mobility day. Depending on what program you have, you may not have that incorporated into that workout. I just started doing that about 5 years ago. And a mobility day works like this. And I'll put a link to it in the description below, along with some other things that I've talked about, like the Army PST and supplements, things like that. But the mobility day works like this. And I love them on Thursdays. They work really well. They make my Friday, Saturday workout so much better instead of just dragging ass the whole half of Friday and just feeling beat up on Saturday. So work looks like this. You do a 5-minute cardio, and I typically use a non-impact cardio like biking, elliptical, rowing, even swimming for 5 minutes. And then you hop out of the pool if you're in the pool, or off the machines, and you do 5 minutes of stretching, foam rolling, or massage tool, like vibrating massage tool on whatever aches. And then you do that 5 times. So I'll typically start off at my feet and calves for those 5 minutes, get on the cardio machine again, work hamstrings and thighs for 5 minutes, get on the cardio again, work hips for 5 minutes and butt for 5 minutes, get back on the cardio machine again, work back, chest, shoulders for 5 minutes, and then work the arms, last bit of stretching and whatever knots I have up there, try to get those out. And that is my mobility day. And if you have a pool, I usually spend a 10-minute swim, 10-minute tread, and 10-minute dynamic stretch in chest deep water. So it's an hour and a half workout. So it's not like you're doing nothing. And you get 25, 30 minutes of cardio in it as well. So absolutely, it is a great addition, especially at 53. I'd highly recommend it. In fact, I even started recommending it to my younger guys, and they're having so much better results on their Friday, Saturday workouts. We're even doing 2-a-days, and they're handling it, but we make that middle of the week day just an easy mobility focus. You almost have to take the time out of the day just to focus on your mobility. And I feel better than I have in decades. So that's one thing that this year, when I look back at 2019, I turned 50 this year, and everything worked really well for me physically. A couple of years ago, I had gained some weight, but I was lifting heavy and going through a heavy lift cycle, and mostly muscle, but some bulk that I didn't need. Go to the doctor. All my numbers were jacked up. So I told my doctor, I said, all right, I'm getting back to my college weight by the time I'm 50. I'll see you at 50. And so I saw him this year, and sure enough, I got back to my college weight, back right at 200, a little bit below 200. My bud's weight's like 195, so I'm going to try to stay there for the rest of my life because it feels healthy. I can see my abs again and all that, and that's awesome. Just enough muscle mass, but still able to run without it hurting. All my health numbers were good: blood pressure, cholesterols, triglycerides, even had colonoscopy, clean bill of health there. Just feeling great. And so 2019 was really good. And so now I look at 2020, and now I'm just going to keep moving in that same direction. And like I said, my next phase is try to get to my bud's weight of between 190, 195. I'll be a little leaner. We'll see how it works. We'll see what 51 brings. But yeah, I will continue to do mobility days for the rest of my life. In fact, a few weeks, just depending on how hard I'm working, I do double mobility days. So I'll do a mobility day like on Wednesday and another one on Saturday with hard days, 2-a-days almost, in between those. And that works a lot, and you walk out of there and you don't feel pain. And that's really big at 50. If you can leave a workout and not feel pain when you wake up in the morning. And I mean, it's been a good year. And I attribute a lot of that to mobility day. And I know I've talked a lot about that question, but check out the link in the description later on, and I'll have a little bit more written about it as well. Have I seen non-athletes make it? Yeah. I mean, people who don't play sports, yes. Would you consider them non-athletes? I don't know. Maybe they did other things. Maybe they did martial arts or they did skateboarding, just a skate rat type guy, surfer dude. I've seen that happen. You have to have some kind of physical history. That could be working on a farm. I've seen guys that never played sports in high school because all they did was work on a farm before and after school. Those guys were just freaking hard dudes. Some guys that work construction. You need to have some kind of physical background. Now, do you need to be an athlete to be in shape? Absolutely not. I've seen some of the guys that are in some of the best physical conditioning that never played sports. They could run, they could swim, they could lift, they could do calisthenics all day long, but put it together with a ball or some other type of activity that had some other coordination, and maybe they couldn't do it then, but you can be in shape and not be an athlete. So 100% on that one. Let's see, take a few more questions here. I don't want to take up all your time. I'm probably gonna go 30 minutes, so I got another 15 minutes here. Pool that I swim in is 5 feet deep, not quite deep enough for treading water. Are there any alternatives to treading? 5 feet shouldn't be that bad, especially if you bend your knees and start practicing egg beater. I try that, see how that works, because there's no reason to be stretched out that far. I figure you have probably a foot of you outside of the water. So if you're 6 foot, if you're over 6 foot tall, it might be an issue. But when you're treading water, you're bending your knees, you're bending your hips. It looks like you're sitting in a chair when you're doing egg beater. So I could probably egg beater in the shallow end. Maybe try to go at an angle, right? Kind of diagonal angle and work on your egg beater. See if that works. Otherwise, find a deeper pool because you do need to practice treading water 100%. How about branch chain amino acids? Yes, if you can't get them in your normal food, you can try with supplements. Like I said, I trust Thorne with just about everything that I have. In fact, probably have 3 or 4 Thorne products here now. From protein to hemp oil, you name it. Recovery, they have a great recovery product in there. But do you need that stuff? I don't know. Depends on how well you are eating and what you're doing. How physically active are you? Do I have an article on how you're ready to head to buds? Yeah, I do, actually. If you go to stewsmithfitness.com and click the articles link, there are several in there. There's a couple that are titled, So You Want to Be a Frogman, To and Through Buds. There's 2 articles in there that's What is Good Enough? Like, what are your scores on the PST and other cardio events like 4-mile runs and 2-mile swims? What are your strength scores with lifting weights, those type of things. And you put all those together and I give you an objective standard. I said, this is what's good enough. Check out those articles. I'll put them in the description below. But if you go to the article section at stewsmithfitness.com and just start scrolling through it, you'll see a ton of articles about better swimming, better PSTs, better running, how to 2 and through buds. What's the difference? Most people just work on getting 2 buds. They don't focus on getting through buds. 2 different phases of training. Absolutely. Let's see. Thanks for what you do. I never take mobility days seriously, and I definitely feel the soreness from PST Phase 1 book. You should take them more seriously, even at your age. I have guys that are 20, years old and over. I got some teenagers that love mobility day, but you got to earn it. You really have to earn your mobility day. So, if you haven't done anything Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you may not need a mobility day. When I say anything, I say anything difficult. But if you're doing, like we usually do, 2-a-days on Monday and Tuesday, like we got after it hard on a leg day today. This afternoon, we're going to do a short run and then a long swim with fins to top off our leg day. We are working out again tomorrow on New Year's Day. Everything's closed, so it'll be an outdoor run type workout with some upper body stuff. But we're going to get after it, and we're going to earn our Thursday mobility day. So think of it that way. Sometimes your body just needs it. And I have seen so much better results just because you're able to push a little harder on that Friday and Saturday workout than you would if you crushed it on Thursday too, because it just slowly, you just degrade, by the end of the week. That mobility day just helps you, hit it at maybe 85-90% instead of being stuck at 50-60%, if that makes any sense. So, all right. Yes, thanks. I guess I needed permission to take multiple mobility days. Yes. Sometimes you listen to your body. Your body tells you. I did one time I was sick and I did nothing but a week of mobility days. I wasn't contagious or anything like that. I don't recommend being contagious and sick and going to the doctor, and go in the weight room. But it was just a bronchitis that I just couldn't get winded very much. Everything hurt when I got winded. So I just kept my cardio down to a I didn't even break a sweat type of cardio, right? It was like walking in a park on these non-impact machines, and then stretched and foam rolled. And I did that every day of the week for a week. But I came back into it really ready to work out again. I didn't take a couple of days of being sore, just skipping workouts, right? So it's a good minimum standard too. If you're kind of sick or you're working around injuries or something like that, or you just need a break, I do a double mobility day, at the beginning of the week and at the end of the week, somewhere in the middle, every other day. It's up to you. Just listen to your body. Sometimes your body will tell you if it needs it. What are my thoughts on sit-ups? I know Jeff hates them. Yes. In fact, Jeff and I did a podcast on that. You should check out our tactical fitness report. We talk about sit-ups. And I personally don't do sit-ups. However, I am no longer taking sit-up tests either. Whenever I had to take sit-up tests and I wanted to get over 100 sit-ups in 2 minutes, guess what you had to practice? You had to practice sit-ups, and you have to learn your pace. That's my advice, right? If you can show me a different way to get sit-ups in a test of 2 minutes in the 100+ range without doing sit-ups, I'm all ears. Right? Maybe you're doing hanging knee ups. Maybe you're doing something else. I love hanging knee ups. In fact, my go-to ab exercise, I have 3 of them. I have the plank, multiple versions of the plank. I have the hanging knee up or toes to bar. And I have the TRX atomic push-up or like rollout activity. So those are really good. Those are my big 3 that I like. I would much rather do those than sit-ups. However, like I told you, I'm not taking sit-up tests anymore. If you have a sit-up test in your future, it might be smart to just practice enough sit-ups to where you get good enough at them. You don't have to do 1,000 of them, right, in a workout. In fact, I usually have, when my guys are practicing sit-ups, we always balance out the sit-up with other activities, because the sit-up is not a complete core exercise, however you want to call it. It is just working your abs and your hip flexors. So you also need to work out your butt, your lower back, your upper back, your rear delts, and go all the way up to your neck. That is a system. The core is a system. It's not just your abs. So a lot of people mislabel core work by just working abs, where it's actually everything that's connected to your spine. There's a lot to work there. So yes. Do I like sit-ups? No. Have I been good at them to be able to do over 100 in 2 minutes? Yes, but that took practice. And the big thing with sit-ups is you just got to learn your pace, just like running. Where most people screw up on sit-ups is they start off way too fast. They get 35 or 40 in the first 30 seconds. Then they can't match that in the next minute and a half. So they just started off too fast. So I just tell people, slow it down. First 30 seconds, try to get 25, and then try to get 50 in a minute, and then just maintain that pace like clockwork. Next thing you know, you're at 90 to 100, once you've built up that muscle stamina to be able to handle that. So are there better exercises for the stomach? Yes, absolutely. And hips? Yes, absolutely. And lower back? Yes, absolutely. They're not a favorite exercise of mine. But like I said, most people who do my stuff need to practice sit-ups. If you no longer need to do sit-ups as part of a sit-up test, then by all means skip them and replace them at a minimum with plank poses. So good question. I like that one. But you should see how Jeff and I discuss it on the Tactical Fitness Report podcast. I'll put the link into it down below. Let's see. Is it wise to break down a circuit into smaller sets to achieve the numbers, or make the numbers lower to complete as a true circuit more you know what? I think in the end, it comes down to volume, and it comes down to your goals. So if you want to make those exercises heavier, you're probably going to do less reps. You want to make them a little lighter, you're probably going to do more reps. Maybe you'll complete the circuit. But if your goal is to get a little stronger, maybe you need to go a little heavier and take a little break to finish the reps, or not get the whole reps. It just depends on your goals, really, on what you're trying to do. I personally like to set up my workouts to where I give you a number. People ask me this all the time. Hey, Stu, you have bench presses 10. What weight should I use? I said, well, I don't know, but I use 225 when I'm doing 10 reps. People may not be able to do that. So it depends. It depends on you, right? Maybe be 135 for 10 reps. Just the goal is hit the reps with whatever weight you can. Because the way I have it set up is I want you to hit these reps at the highest weight possible, right? So you're almost failing at the last repetition. If you fail at the last repetition, big deal, right? Make it up later. But yeah, there's, once again, it kind of depends on your goals on that one. If you're doing circuits, you might not necessarily be in a strength training program. Maybe you're a bit more into a hypertrophy or muscle stamina type program. So it does depend. I personally recommend resting less and doing more reps if you're into that muscle stamina hypertrophy program. And I think most people would agree with that one. Do I have a chance to be a SEAL if I have bad eyesight? You should go to sealswick.com and see. Depends on what your eyesight is. There are standards medically to get into SEALs. There are waivers that are possible for bad eyesight if you get it corrected with PRK and LASIK surgery. What those standards are, you should go find out, because that is all reference material. What is the name for the TFR for sit-ups? You should just Google it. I bet you'll find it. In fact, if you go to StuSmithFitness.com and go to the article section, I've written an article and I've linked all of the podcasts I've ever done. There's 155 of them. You can scroll through it, and I'm pretty sure if you do TFR sit-ups, in fact, I'm just going to do that now. TFR sit-ups. Let me Google that for you. Stu Smith. Boom. TFR 146. Jeff and Stu discuss plank versus sit-ups. There you go. See, that is a question that lacks all initiative, right? When I get on to people, in fact, 2019, I don't know if you noticed, I was much nicer to people who ask stupid questions, because there are stupid questions out there. That's one of them, right? There's a Google machine that you can find out just about anything on, right? Especially if you're looking for something I did, just put my name in it and I guarantee you'll find it. But what I did this year is I answered the question. I said, here's why that is not a good question to ask, because it lacks all initiative. It lacks all effort. It's just really a lazy question. It's not a stupid question. It's just lazy. But I just categorize them all as stupid questions. But if you notice, there's a reason why I do that. Because one day in your military career, if you so choose to go into the military or anywhere in your adult life, you are going to be facing a problem that you have to figure out. And it takes initiative to do that. So I am actually teaching people how to take initiative by just going and find it out for yourself. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, if you have conflicting information, bring that conflicting information to me and say, hey, Stu, you say this, this says this, what should I do? All right. Maybe mine's out of date. Maybe that one's up to date, vice versa. Who knows? But anyway, I turned over a new leaf this year. I don't know if you noticed that, but I was much nicer. I even had special podcasts and YouTube Live and Instagram Lives for answering stupid questions. And I made fun of it, right? And anyway, that's what I did in 2019. I think I was quite successful in that. So, because I used to get mad and people get sad because I was yelling at them, but it's not because I think you're stupid. It's just because I want to teach you about the term initiative. Google it. I've written a lot of articles about it. In fact, if you go to Google and type Stu Smith initiative, you might find some good articles about why it's so important. So, any pro tips for rucks? Good shoes, good ruck, being supported in the right place. You know what? You need to play around with it some. I would suggest go to maybe an Army surplus store and trying on a few. Try an Alice pack, try a Molly pack, try, I can't remember what the latest one's called. But anyway, I wrote an article on it too, and you can Google it. It's considered, what is it called? I don't know. If you do backpack review Stu Smith, you'll probably find it in there. I personally like to, if I'm going flat ground, like just a trail that's paved, I'll wear regular running shoes. But if I'm going a trail that's not paved, you know, off the beaten path type of thing, I'll definitely wear boots just for support. Because, you know, when you have a pack on, you can definitely mess up your ankles. So let's see. What are good treading parameters to achieve prior to a water-intensive military pipeline? I know. Okay, good question. You know what? One thing we do here, we warm up with treading. We also warm up with whatever your test is. So we'll warm up two ways. We'll warm up with a 500-meter test or yards, and we'll warm up with a 10-minute tread. That is the first 10 minutes of our swim workout will either be one or the other. Typically, it's whatever you suck at. So if you're crushing a 500-yard swim workout but having a hard time treading, I would have you do the 10-minute tread as your warm-up for the swim workout. But yeah, you need to do it with no hands. 10 minutes is a good standard. Maybe holding a weight, 10-pound brick. Hold it one hand, tread with the other, and practice your egg beater. I do have a couple of videos that are pretty good on YouTube. But, to be honest with you, find water polo players, water polo coaches that are teaching people egg beater, because know more about treading than I ever will. I've learned it from them. I would highly recommend finding a water polo player to help you with treading, or watch some of their videos. I've done a couple videos. I do some scissor kicks. I do some little flutter kicks when things get tight, like the beehive type thing, when they put you in real close. Can't do big kicks. You just got to do little flutter kicks. And, if you get used to 10-minute treads, treading sucks. I would consider treading vertical swimming. It's just as hard. So keep practicing and do it every day that you are in the pool. And if you're really bad at it, do it as a warm up, do it as a cool down. There you go. But I've written articles about it too. If you do a Google search, treading water, Stu Smith, you'll see videos and a couple of really good articles that discuss some of the tips on it. I read The Complete Guide to Navy SEAL Fitness, a standard of overall exercise I use every day. Thank you. Well, I hope you did it too, not just read it. That's one of those books. That's one of those books that you can't just read. Got to do it. All right. Okay, another question. Last question. I got to go. So what are your thoughts on subbing in planks, toes to bar, crunches, leg levers, reverse crunches? You know what? I use those exercises as a rest exercise. So let's say I'm doing a 5x5 with a bench press. Instead of just sitting there doing nothing, I like to take a minute or more to do some form of ab. Like we did a workout yesterday where we had 3 different rest sets for 3 different circuits, or not really circuits, but combos of exercises. And your rest set in between those was a minute of sit-ups or toes to bar, whichever one. If you didn't have to take a sit-up test, then you did toes to bar. 1 minute plank, and then we had 1 minute of something with your feet off the ground. So that meant flutter kicks, leg levers, scissors, those type of things. So we mix all of those into a workout as rest exercises. So take a minute, rest with abs. I think it's a great way to rest. So it's a great, safe, easy way to get your heart rate down by still doing something. Because, I used to lift like really heavy weight, and you would rest 5 or 6, 8 minutes in between sets, and you do nothing. You just sip water and just chill out and talk. And that gets really boring now after decades of not doing that, and kind of getting in better shape to where you can actually rest by doing something else. Another thing we do is we rest with some kind of cardio, 2-3 minute run. Can you get, quarter mile, half mile in, and then come back and be ready to lift again. Now, your lifts won't be that good because you're not really resting, but who cares? Your work capacity is going to skyrocket, and that's key. All right. So anyway, Happy New Year. It is the last day of 2019. I do have a coupon code that says SAVE25. So if you go to StuSmith.com, today is the last day that coupon will work, saving 25% on anything. So go to StuSmithFitness.com, check out the store, save 25% off everything, last day. But that is my last one. If I didn't get to your question, please feel free to email me, stu@StuSmith.com, or just leave it in the place below the description in the comment section of this video, and I will get to it. So, hey, thanks for the questions. I really appreciate it. I hope 2019 was a good one for you. And if it wasn't, let's have some 2020 vision and figure it out. All right. 2020 would be a lot better. So let's do it. We'll see you.